Welcome to the family with
Mike Gelfand.
And Cassie Schrader.
day 4, of Andy having a baby.
Yeah.
Colin comes into the world, upsets the apple cart. You know what I'm saying. It's just how it is. There's no question. Had a unique experience. First time in my life after all these years of being in the business today. We're talking. AJ's in where Cassie is now. You got Tevin was sitting to my right. You got Kristen Burt, remote from Los Angeles, California. We're talking, and all of a sudden she starts bouncing up and down. And I made at a pretty good rate, too. She goes, "Oh, I'm having an earthquake."
What?
Yeah, there's video of her in an earthquake. There was an earthquake while she was on the show this morning.
Shake it off.
Shake it up, exactly. Toughen up.
I imagine you have new Pentecostal listeners now, though.
Pentecostal?
Yeah.
Why Pentecostal?
Well, they tend to shake.
Oh, do they? They're Shakers?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't there a religious group called the Shakers?
Yes. Yeah.
And was that Pentecostal?
I don't think so.
I don't know. I don't know anything about those deals.
Well, the Pentecostals, they speak in tongues.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Don't they do the snakes too? Are they Pentecostal with the snake handling or whatever they do?
I don't know about that.
Oh, maybe it's a more extreme form of Pentecostal.
Yes. It's the Orthodox sector.
Orthodox, yeah. There you go.
Well, my buddy David Kalachi, I went to high school with him.
Mm-hmm.
We're still close friends. His dad was a priest in Italy.
What?
Yeah, he was a priest. His dad had been a priest in Italy, and so he emigrated to the United States because he wanted to get married to the woman he loved, and she, of course, was in Italy too. So he came over here, and he became a Pentecostal minister. And then, after a while, he decided that was a little too much for him. They moved to Minnesota. He got a job as a professor at Augsburg, and so then he became a Lutheran.
What? So you know what? I will tell you one thing, though. We talked about that at the beginning of the show today about assimilation, because that's one of these situations going on again. But all he did is assimilate to his environment.
That's exactly right.
That's what he did.
Mm-hmm.
He was very adaptive. And,
we should be more that way.
And religion is, should be a part of that as far as I'm concerned.
Adapting. Yeah, no question about it. You show up, you're hanging out, get off your ass.
No, I don't shake or speak in tongues except when there's another demonstration at an Ivy League school.
Yeah, there's a lot of those these days, aren't there? Well,
we'll see. I mean, it's about to heat up again.
Oh, they changed it. Oh, God.
Well, what did they change?
The AP put out today. Oh, no, I found it again. They just lowered it one rung.
Oh, okay.
AP put now this is Mike and I were talking about national news reporting and how it's complete and utter bullshit. It's just about to make money and all the rest of it. This is the AP, which is a national service, no question about it. The first story: Francine weakens moving inland as the storm leaves behind flooding and widespread power outages. Right next to that, war motions strengthen Hurricane Francine.
I know.
They're right next to one another.
I saw a little clip of it on one of the news shows, and they were saying, and there are 8,000 people without power. Just come to my neighborhood any Friday night.
Right.
Same story.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of rain, and all of a sudden, and then of course I go to the Xcel Energy site, and after about 10 minutes, I'm able to see where the outages are, and I mean typical, 25,000 people without power. It's not even unusual.
Not anymore. It's not.
No.
You're absolutely right about that. So, yeah, I mean, we're just talking about how is it, Mike, you've been in this business your entire life, the news reporting business.
Mm-hmm.
How do you post two stories right next to one another where one says it's weakening and the other one says it's strengthening?
That's bad web placement. I guarantee you one of those stories is probably 3 hours earlier than the other, and they just stuck them back next
That's probably true.
Didn't even pay attention.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People don't. They just look at the headline. So
They do. That's what they do is look at the headlines. So but once again, the national news, no matter what you believe, you're right.
yes, exactly. Well, I mean, it's like take the old one down and put the new one up. You
That
don't
would
have
be good.
But see, all those people who used to do that don't work anymore. They've lost their jobs.
They
right?
did. You're right.
Yeah. I subscribe, some days hesitantly, but I do subscribe to the Minnesota Star Tribune.
It's the Minnesota. I talked about that this morning.
Yeah.
Minnesota Star Tribune.
Yes. And
Yep.
and it occurred to me after a while that the only thing that I absolutely have to check every day is the TV sports schedule.
Oh, okay.
So do you know what they have now eliminated from the Minnesota Star Tribune?
The TV sports schedule?
Yes. Mhm.
Gee, I wonder why that would be.
I have no interest in it anymore.
All right. Yeah, they just lost a
Especially
subscriber.
and especially because, they now have, and this is something you might have thought you would like, but now they have a happy strategy. Now, like everything is upbeat because they've got the opinion editor now who now, well, let's see, what time is it? Oh yeah, he's lived in the Twin Cities now, I think, for 3 weeks and 8 hours.
Sure.
And so he's the guy in charge of the opinions. What?
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, you should know something about Minnesota, don't you think,
I would
before you
think so,
become the
yes.
opinion editor?
I would.
yeah.
And everything is upbeat. Everything is, it's like, I think we talked about this when this horrible tragedy in St. Louis Park at the bowling alley, when the guy in the parking lot just the drunk drove right through and killed a couple of people and
Park Tavern.
ruined the lives of probably about 10,000 people.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And and this guy had been arrested 5 times for DWIs. And so he should have been in prison all the time, all the way, but he wasn't. And so the next day there was an editorial in the Minnesota Star Tribune. And the editorial was a plea for people to hug each other.
Just out of the blue, just come up to strangers on the street and give them a hug.
We need more hugs at this moment. And the thing is, okay, I get that, but there's a lot of rage out there about something like this.
Yeah, there's no question about it.
And I think the rage is entirely appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes you need rage to do something to get, a useful change in what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I look at rage in that sense. It's kind of like a drive for justice, I think.
Yeah, it can be. Right.
It's valid.
It's like religion. It can be used for the good of everyone, or it can just be used for the not so good.
Right.
But don't you think it'd be better if we kind of all moved toward the middle instead of being on the far left, the far right, the far north, the far south, all around? Wouldn't it be better if we tried to get along?
Hey, all I can tell you is that I feel the same way about politically that I have always felt. Only now I'm on the same side as Dick Cheney.
Yeah, you are. That's exactly right.
So,
and his wife is driving that mostly.
Daughter.
Oh, that's his daughter?
Yeah.
She looks as old as he is.
Yeah, but she's got all the parts still there in her body.
Well, that's probably true. No question about it.
He's mostly just sort of a pastiche of transplanted organs.
Well, see, I don't pay attention to any of the political argument BS. So why does he hate the Republicans now? What did they do?
Well, because his daughter, and I guess it's true of him too. They're conservatives.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't see conservatism as whatever's going on now in what used to be their party.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. I mean, she's been excommunicated because she didn't bow to the cult leader, and she ought to be able to have her opinions too.
Who excommunicated her?
Well, the entire party. Yeah, I mean, the first thing they did was kick her out of office.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I don't pay attention to politicians. I think they're all full of shit, and I don't like any of them.
Well, I mean, they tend to be. Yeah.
Yeah, they do tend to be.
As Trump said, well, I don't have a plan for that, but I have a concept.
A concept.
Yeah.
A concept.
That made
It's written
total
in
sense.
crayon.
No question about it. Yeah, I suppose we could discuss that. I did not watch the debate, but I understand he won, she won, he sucked, she sucked.
It wasn't a great debate, honestly.
That's what I understand.
No, but it was fascinating. It was the only presidential debate I've ever watched.
I don't watch them either.
And I only planned to watch it for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But there were so many subplots that it's hard, it's just hard to put it away.
Is that because the moderators got involved in the conversation?
I mean, that's what happened when you really get your ass kicked. It's all the fault of the moderators.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm asked you a question. Was it the moderators?
Well, and what I'm saying is no.
Everybody else says yes.
Well, everybody on one side says yes.
That's not true.
I think everybody in that building that day all came in with a chip on their shoulder.
There's no doubt about
Oh,
it.
Yeah. I mean, they got a little testy at times with Trump. The one comment that I really liked that I can't remember the woman that was one of the moderators, her name, but they were talking about the abortion rights, and Trump's like, well, it's not legal to kill a baby after it's born, and blah blah blah. And then it was actually really a good point. She goes, in all 50 states, it's illegal to kill a baby after it's born. So
it's called murder.
Yeah. And
so why is that an argument? It's the people want to kill babies after they're born now?
No, they don't.
Abortion.
But that's what
they don't.
That's what some people are saying.
Yeah, and it is impacting women's health, because I've read many articles, but and I've actually, when I read an article now, I try and find the same exact story on other sites, so I know it's not just somebody's just trying to get info out there first. So I usually wait about 2 hours after a news story breaks to start getting the real facts. But this woman, she had an ectopic pregnancy, which means that the egg implants into the fallopian tube. It's not a viable pregnancy at all. A baby can't survive there. Well, she was having a lot of pain and everything. She went to the hospital. They told her, just, you're fine. And she went back home and she called her obstetrician, and he sent her back to the hospital. They refused to give her an abortion. I'm not sure what the procedure is for a fallopian tube, but her obstetrician had to fly in from where they were to convince the hospital to give her an abortion, but they were too late. The egg ruptured and blew out her fallopian tube. Now she may not be able to have children.
Oh, wonderful.
What state was that in?
Texas.
Yeah.
It was, I think it was I can't remember if it was Houston or Dallas, but it was one of the bigger cities. And there's a couple of stories going on in Texas right now that's very similar to that.
Oh, it would have been anywhere in Texas, sure, of course, because they got laws there, and nobody, that's why in states like Florida and Texas, so many obstetricians are just moving somewhere else.
Well, and I found out in that article, a lot of these doctors, it's not that they don't want to perform it,
right?
But if they do, they can get fined thousands of dollars. I mean, we're talking like six figures,
right? Or put in jail.
Yeah. So that's why these doctors, they're just like, no, I can't do it, because they can't risk their career.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. How did this get to be such a big argument anyway? I don't understand. Look, when I was 20, well, actually I was 17 years old. I was 16 years old when I got out of school. Well, I didn't get out of school because they made me come for homeroom every day. But I made a decision when I turned 18 that I wouldn't have sex till I was 22 years old, because I couldn't afford to have a baby. So I did not. The first time I ever had sex, I was 22 years old. I was working, had a job, and all the rest of it. Still at that point, I made sure I was protected from having a baby. I didn't leave it all. Why are there so many unwanted pregnancies? Why are you having babies anyway? You could avoid it.
I know.
Have you read the Bible?
No, I really haven't. I got to be honest with you.
Because it kind of goes back to there.
What do you mean?
I mean, sex is just such an overpowering urge for a lot of people.
I understand that.
And there are also people, there are women, of course, who want to get pregnant. Right. For one reason or another. And I'm not, I'm certainly not going to say, well, they're stupid or they shouldn't do it.
I didn't say they were.
No,
they
I know,
but
I'm just saying, because I brought that subject up. I'm not judging anyone, but it sure is a lot easier to get pregnant than it is to take care of the baby.
Yeah,
it certainly is.
A lot funner too.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Well, no, like the whole abortion thing too. Like one thing I even called Trump out on Twitter. I don't even know why I did it, but he kept reiterating that it's a state's issue, which I get. It's up to the states now to vote and decide whether they want an abortion state or a non-abortion state. The problem is it shouldn't be up to the states or the federal government. This is solely a healthcare issue
Yeah, that's
between
true.
a woman and a doctor. It should not even be on the federal or state level scope at all. You know what I mean?
No, I know exactly
It's
what you
not
mean.
like they're murdering babies.
No, but this is what happens when politicians decide these issues.
Yes, I would
Yeah.
agree with that 100%. Look, I'm in a situation where there was not one unwanted pregnancy in all of the 7 kids in my family before that. I mean, I suppose it could have been covered up a couple of generations ago. I don't know. But so it was never a problem in my life. Do I have a problem with it? No, I am not you. I haven't
Right.
lived your life. You've lived a completely different life than I have. You do what you do. It's your business. So I'm not pro or con anything. It's none of my business.
Yeah, and see, I have a good understanding of it because I've had an abortion
Oh,
before,
okay.
and the abortion I had was in high school when I was in a very physical abusive relationship.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you and I talked about that.
So, for me, being a 17-year-old girl pregnant, trying to
Oh,
hide
yeah.
it from their parents because,
Oh God.
I was terrified and I didn't know what to do. And I'm in an abusive relationship. I felt like that was my only option. And my concern is that, is he going to do to the baby what he does to me?
Right.
And
He probably would.
and that was kind of my catalyst for making the decision that I did. Not that I think whether you're pro-abortion or not, that's a personal decision. It's a circumstantial decision.
Yeah.
It's not something that you're like, oh yeah, every time I get pregnant, I'm gonna have an abortion. That's not how it goes.
Yeah,
So,
and I think some people do think that's how it goes.
yeah, and that's
I
not
think you're
how it
right.
is. I mean,
Yeah.
there are women who do kind of get pregnant a lot and have a lot of abortions, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, I was worried that I couldn't live with myself if knowing that he did something to the child to either harm the child or murder the child. And I couldn't live with that either.
Yeah, I have a friend. She got pregnant when she was 15,
Mhm.
and her dad beat her a lot.
While she was pregnant?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
And
That's great.
so she, but she had no alternative. She didn't know what to do,
Right.
and so she had the baby, and then the baby was immediately sent into foster care, whatever, and adopted.
Mhm.
And I think that it would have been so much better for her if she didn't have to have the baby, because then of course she winds up having terrible guilt and sorrow about
Right.
losing her
Right.
child, essentially. And I mean, it's just a terrible situation. And I know she wishes that she had an abortion, but this didn't seem to be an alternative at all for her.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
is, of course, what a lot of teenagers are going through in some of these, many of these states, where it's, it's like sometimes you have like 6 weeks to get an abortion.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
pretty typical.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
you don't even know you're pregnant in 6 weeks.
Yeah, there's times, you have to be like 2 months pregnant for you to even show up on a test.
Yeah.
So it's not, I don't know. What they need to do, honestly, is figure out what we can do with the children that we have already.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it,
Yeah.
all these women that have gotten abortions, if they couldn't get an abortion, you know how many unwanted children we would have running around this world?
We have a lot of them in the Eastern Hemisphere. I
And
know that.
they should
Jesus.
make adoption a lot cheaper.
Oh, is it really expensive?
Oh,
It's a big business.
oh gosh,
Is it
you're
really?
talking 30, 40 grand.
So you're
with
selling them like livestock.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
They
God.
it's so expensive to adopt because you have legal fees, you have to have an attorney, you have, all this other stuff.
It's the free market.
It's capitalism at its finest.
Selling human beings. That's great. We're selling human beings for 30 grand. That's just wonderful.
Yeah, it's sad all around, but they got to figure something out because it's this issue that just keeps popping up every election cycle, and I feel like we're just kind of rehashing every four years our issues,
Yeah.
and nobody's fixing the problem. They're just arguing about
except
it.
this issue, really, there's never a day without this issue.
Yeah.
No,
I don't think
no.
it's just the election, although that is a big part of it, because it's the election that made us where we are right now.
Yeah.
But it's the Supreme Court justices who took over the lives of many people.
Yeah, and like I said, it shouldn't even be it shouldn't even be a law. It should just be solely between a woman and her doctor.
But there's a lot of money to be made, and that's the real issue, isn't it?
Yeah, follow the money.
Follow the money. $30,000 per. I mean, how many births are there in the United States every year?
Oh, I couldn't even imagine.
I mean, geez, millions, I would assume.
Oh, I'm sure there's probably, I would say probably at any given moment, there's probably 1,500 kids born probably like every minute or something.
That's about it.
It's probably
Yeah,
some
exactly.
obscene number, but yeah.
And as a parent, you know, $30,000 doesn't even get you to the kid's 8th birthday.
Oh, God, no.
You're right about that.
I got 11 of them. I'm broke.
Oh, no.
Well, they're not. You didn't give birth to all 11.
No, but I gotta support them.
Yeah, well, I understand it's a different call. No question about that. Yeah, I really wish that we could get more humane about, and I sincerely do think both these parties need to get their head out of their ass and move closer to the center, because this is just a goddamn sideshow.
It's not where the money is, though.
I know. Once again, it's always about the money. Always.
That's why I really kind of like Tim Walz in there in the mix. Even though I don't agree with all of his policies, he is kind of a person that can compromise, I guess he was. Maybe it's his Minnesota nice. I don't know. He just has this way about him that I think could be beneficial for both sides.
And he doesn't actually have a lot of money, which is very rare for any politician these days.
He's just kind of that Minnesota dad. You know, he's like a Minnesota. I mean, he's not the greatest governor. I mean, there's always issues with every politician, but I think he might be the person that we need in there to kind of be the mediator.
Really?
I think.
Well, we found out during the debate that Minneapolis was burned to the ground.
Which it did, yeah.
Well, it was a very small section.
No, it was not.
Well, I understand.
We'll drive through there today. I'll show you how big.
Well,
that
no,
section
but it was a neighborhood. Okay, I get that, but Minneapolis did not burn down.
A part of it did.
Well, yeah, but it's not the same
happened.
as saying Minneapolis burned down.
And it's also not the same as look. That's on both sides. They're both bullshit artists, and everybody knows that. I mean, if it benefits me, I will lie my ass off and use things like that to do it.
Yeah. See, if you want to blame, Minneapolis, blame Derek Chauvin and Jacob Fry. That's the people that I think were responsible for destroying Minneapolis. If Derek Chauvin would have never killed George Floyd, none of it would have happened. If Jacob Fry would have done his job as a mayor of Minneapolis, we wouldn't have had to have the governor get the National Guard involved. Yeah. So it was a systematic failure of government at its finest.
Yeah. It was the basic, just the basic everyday failure of government, and it was. And of course, you know, with Fry, you had a mayor who really didn't know where his ass was.
No, no, you're right.
He did it. He looked he looked like a boy that just broke his lamp, and his mom came in the room and saw it. He's like, "Oh, I don't know what to do."
and people, you know, people say, you know, Fry, like he doesn't have the experience. You know, he shouldn't be mayor. Well, you got an idea who should be, because nobody wants to be mayor of Minneapolis.
No, I don't. I'll tell you that.
Oh God.
You know, here's a good example of how things should be handled. I think. You guys are just talking about somebody I cannot stand. I think he's the biggest fraud I've ever seen in my life. I've had to deal with him a little bit here and a little bit there. I think the guy's a complete piece of shit. But the only reason I bring that up is while you were talking about him, I never said that. I didn't have to interrupt you and go, "Oh, you're crazy." You got your life. I got my life. You love the guy. I don't have any problem with that. You have a different life than I do. I think he's a complete fraud and bullshit artist, but so are all politicians now.
Right.
Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah, you can't, there's, like you said, I mean, how do you know a politician's lying? His mouth is moving.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, no matter what, honestly, the only way we're going to fix this situation in our country is eliminate political parties and have term limits.
Works for me.
Yeah, I'm into term limits, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I was very skeptical for a long time.
Yeah.
But now, and the people who need term limits the most are the Supreme Court justices.
But it's always been that way.
Give them 8 years maybe, and then get them out.
I couldn't agree more.
And now they just sit there and suck up money from billionaires and then do what the billionaires want them to do.
Yep.
And that was when we were growing up, the Supreme Court, we may not have liked the justices, but we viewed the Supreme Court as the ultimate arbiter. And if you didn't agree with them, that's cool. But basically what they did was they tried to follow precedent. And it was about the Constitution. It's not about the Constitution anymore. These guys are citing the Bible and in one case, like 18th century philosophers in their decisions. What the hell?
I know, right?
It's prudent, Mike. It's just very prudent. I'm still pissed off at Ruth Bader Ginsburg to this day, and I'll never get over it because I visited the Supreme Court and it was empty. And I wanted to sit in her chair and they wouldn't let me.
Aw.
Her chair is this much higher than everybody else's.
She was tiny.
She was tiny.
Well,
I'm not kidding you. That chair was 3 feet higher than everybody
She
else.
was like shorter than me.
Oh God, she was very tiny.
And I come in here every Thursday, and the first thing I have to do is jack up the chair.
Short
there's
people
the problem
problem.
right there.
This chair, like somebody who was 6'5" was in this chair before me.
Well, that would have been 10.
Cat. Oh.
Yeah. So there you go.
6'4", 6'5",
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
Mhm.
No question about it. But yeah, I just think unless somebody wants to move towards somebody else, I really don't want anything to do with them. If they're so hard right or so hard left, it just makes no sense to me why you want to be that hateful and just. I still can't believe our school system and particularly our university have turned to. They're psychotic now. The way they have turned on the Jews, I will never understand that. I know Mike and I have talked about it many times. Why our colleges are teaching people to hate anybody, I really don't understand.
I don't either.
Well, there's a lot of hate out there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ignorance, ironically, at universities. And, it's anti-Semitism is now, it's just an ordinary thing now.
I know.
You got neo-Nazis having lunch at Mar-a-Lago.
Who was that?
Well, there were 2 of them at the same time. One of them was Yee or whatever he's calling himself now.
Oh,
he was having lunch at Mar-a-Lago, and he's a big fan of Hitler.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Kanye West.
Kanye, yeah.
That's who it is.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
It's Kanye West.
Yeah, because he's the voice of the youth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go. He's mentally ill.
Oh my God.
And then there was this other guy who was a Holocaust denier. Now you had on X, Tucky Carlson is on X now.
Oh, is he?
And
Okay.
he's a big deal.
Is he?
And so he had an interview with a guy, and Elon Musk was very, very excited about it. He liked everything that the guy said. And so he had a guy on who Tucky described as being, one of the most brilliant historians of our time. You know what this guy said? He said the reason that we had he didn't exactly deny the Holocaust, but he said the reason that it happened was Hitler was so successful. He was so brilliant and so successful that he had all these Jewish prisoners and he didn't know what to do with them. So they had really no choice but to exterminate them.
That's what he said?
Yes.
They had no choice but to
Brilliant historian. Brilliant
he's
historian.
a brilliant historian.
Yeah.
Okay.
According to Elon Musk and according to Tucky.
And who's this guy that was so brilliant?
I don't remember his name.
I have no idea who the hell that might be.
But, you can Google it and find it in a second. And he and so these people have seeped into the mainstream.
They have. Well, and they don't believe that bullshit, but they know it makes them a lot of money.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
It's always about money now. Everything is about money.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
But, Tucky, who was a mainstream Republican, basically, he's the guy who really started this replacement thing. He did it for like 400 times. He talked about the great replacement theory, which is that the Jews are responsible for all of the immigrants and Black people and everybody else being in this country because they want to destroy the white race.
The Jews do?
Yeah.
Jews are white.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I don't really understand. So you want to destroy yourself?
Well, it's not. You brought rationality into the discussion.
We can't have that.
No.
why the hatred of, I wouldn't waste a minute hating anybody. I've had people treat me like absolute shit and lie about things that I did that never happened. I don't even hate them. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of hating them.
No.
I don't want them near me, which, that's a different story.
Go away.
But
I have some near me.
do you? Like right now?
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay.
But when I go home, there will be some people near me.
Oh, they will?
Oh, yeah.
I like your neighborhood. You're a great neighborhood.
It can be, yeah. Depends.
Really?
Well, it's just, I don't know.
They're flying the flag. That helps.
I mean, let's face it. You and I have always polarized people in the first place.
Well, that's true.
So it starts out, anywhere you go, the temperature is pretty hot.
Mm-hmm.
God, it's funny that you brought that up. And just last night, Catherine and I went to dinner. There's no reason to say, what it was and all the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a table of about 10 people that I knew some of them. The people we were having dinner with knew some of them and all the rest of it. You've been through this before. I know you have. As I'm going around saying hello to everybody, I think there were 8 people at that table. I'm going saying, hey, hello. I knew some of them I introduced myself to. There was one guy that just sat there and stared at me.
Sure, of course.
You've been through it.
And these are the people who always say, are you still on that morning show?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They know damned well you're still on that morning show.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's just hilarious.
That's always, for me, that's always the first thing makes me want to just get the hell out of there. Because I know this is going to be trouble right away. When these people go after you, and it's embarrassing. They should be embarrassed, not me, but.
No, I agree with you.
But yeah, it happens. I was at, I've had many of these things happen. At a charity event, I had this happen.
That's really nice.
Charity event, yeah.
Yeah.
And this guy's going after me. And the charity thing, we were playing tennis, right?
Okay.
So I have to play tennis, or at least hit the ball a little bit. Basically play a set or something. I don't remember.
Right.
And with a guy who was like the state tennis champion, not here, but somewhere else.
Oh, okay.
And so he's just like he's hitting 110 mile an hour, serves. And I was pretty good at playing tennis in the day, but those were days when I could see.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah, and so but I can't. What am I supposed to do with that, right? So he finally faults, and I get my first point. Fault meaning that his serve was not in the box. Yeah.
Right.
And he starts screaming. He says,
at you?
Yeah. He says, that was in. I said, no, and actually all the people sitting right off the court who were watching us said it was out. And he, I really thought he was gonna hit me.
Over tennis?
Because he lost a point.
Oh,
because he lost a point. His whole ego was wrapped up in me not getting a point. He wanted to go around bragging that I never got a point. So you know what he did? And this sometimes is reflected in political arenas too. He just said that it was all a lie, that he actually won. He won the point.
That's what we do now. I will lie my ass off.
Yep.
And I'm not talking for myself, because I wouldn't give you the time of day to lie my ass
Of course.
off. I have never cared about that. But why are we at a point now in humanity where we can't admit that, yes, even though I won 19 points, I didn't win 20?
It's incredible.
It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
One day I was at the track, back when I was a handicapper at the track, and I'm sitting next to Mike Tice.
I had a sister that's handicapped. No,
And
that was a very famous person that said that.
Oh,
or is this the child?
Child?
The child was handicapped. That's
Yeah.
what it was.
Yes, exactly. That goes
Right.
back to Polad. Yeah.
There you
Yeah. I'll tell that story one of these days.
go. One of these
Again,
days.
I've told it, I think, before, but
Yeah,
nobody knows.
I love the story.
And okay, I'm gonna I have to devolve into that. I'm talking to Carl Polad, and for some reason he had decided to open a delicatessen next to his boat company,
Where was the
because
boat
he had
company?
space there. It was out in Minnetonka.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he had a boat. He had a big showroom with boats and stuff.
Oh, is that the Boat Works?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, so Rick Bourne, I think, owns that now, doesn't he? I think.
I don't know,
Maybe the Polads still do.
but I know
don't
one thing: it's not Carl Polad.
No, it's not Carl. We know that.
And so I'm talking to him, and no, was it Pollard or was it Jacobs? It was Irwin Jacobs. Irwin Jacobs.
It was.
Pollard's another story which I won't tell.
No, you don't want to tell that story.
No, but yeah, it was Irwin Jacobs, and he was sort of half listening to me and saying, what do you do? And I said, I mentioned a couple of things, and I said, yeah, I'm a handicapper out at Canterbury. He said, oh yes, I have a handicapped child too.
A handicapper and handicap is the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. As all I can say is that as a depraved gambler, I was very upset by that.
Depraved?
Yeah. Well, we're all depraved. That's the thing about horse players. We all die broke.
Really?
No, not
I didn't
really.
think so, because I've seen some people that do rather well at that.
Yeah, I'm not broke.
No, you're not broke.
I mean, I'm in deep poverty, but I'm not broke.
We're all in deep poverty.
So anyway, I don't even remember. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So I'm talking to Mike Tice, and we're having a good conversation. And he said, I like the 6 horse here. And I said, no, you don't want to bet the 6. He said, well, he had the lead and he won by 4 lengths last time. I said, yeah, he was basically running against a bunch of pigs. This time there are real horses in the race, and he will finish last. He said, oh, I didn't know that. So, and meanwhile, his wife is sitting there, and we're having this conversation very friendly. Fortunately for him, he's taking my advice, and his wife is just glaring at me with hatred. Well, you know how that is.
Oh, yes.
A lot of times it's not the person, it's someone around. And that when I covered the Twins, I remember Roy Smalley saying to me once, he had hit a home run, which he didn't hit very often, but he hit a home run because the outfielder reached up and it bounced off his glove, and then he ricocheted into the stands.
So it was a home
run.
Yep.
So I had a little fun with that.
Oh God!
And the next day I see Roy. I like Roy. Always liked Roy.
Roy's a good guy.
Yeah, a good guy, and he was a very good athlete. And I'm sure he probably still is. But anyway, and he's by the way, he's great at doing color announcing. I agree. He's good at that. He's the one guy they have who's really can communicate in the first place, but he knows baseball. Anyway, so next day it was a day game, and it's about 11 a.m. in the locker room, and Roy is looking kind of sullen, and I said to him, "Well, Roy, what's going on?" I said, "Well, geez, are you mad at me because I had a little fun with you?" He said, "No, I'm not mad, but my wife is."
Yeah, there you go.
So this is what happens. We're in Cleveland, right? And all the players get calls at 7 a.m. Their wives wake them up. They're back here and talk about all the horrible stuff I wrote.
God, isn't it? You know what's so funny about what he's saying here? Mm-hmm. I posted something a couple of days ago or a few days ago, whatever it was, and it got like 600 and some people responding to it. And there were comments by almost all of them and all the rest of it. So I'm trying to read through them as quickly as I can and say, thank you or or whatever the situation is. So of the 600, the posts were, I think, around 250 or something like that. So I get 125 in, and then I see one, and then I get 124 more out.
No.
The one in the middle, I hate you. It's like, what?
There's always that person. They can't help themselves.
It's just like, God.
All our success depended on that one guy.
Yeah, that's true. That's very, very true.
He's gone. We're gone.
I wish people would understand that the more you attack somebody unless you're trying to ruin their lives and lying like some people do.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Lying about what they said and what they did. I don't like that bullshit.
Well, can you imagine me covering the Twins today?
Oh, God.
Oh, the hate messages, the threats on my life. I could stack them up to the ceiling here every day.
Absolutely. I remember.
I just couldn't do that anymore. I mean, could I say some of the horrible things I said about the Twins? I just had fun with them, right? But one lead was just the Twins lost last night.
That was it.
And the sun set in the west.
Which may happen again tonight.
Yes. But now I'd get hate mail from
Oh
that.
God.
Something as simple as that. Well, because every day the Twins didn't win that much in those days.
No, they did not.
And even when they had a good year, they had a very bad exit.
You know what I love about your stories like that? And you brought up Mike Tice, who hated my guts the whole time he was here.
Really?
I don't get along with management of anything.
Well, that's why his wife was glaring at me.
Just because it was my fault.
Yeah, it's your
Right,
fault.
because
then.
I was on KQRS and we said bad things about Mike Tice.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because he deserved it because he's a horseshit coach. But
And look at Denny Green. I mean,
terrible.
I had his lawyer's wife attack me and call me a bigot because I wouldn't say he was the greatest coach in the NFL.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm out at a golf course. Won't say which one it was, but I see Mike Tice walk in because he's a very big guy.
Yeah.
So he was pretty tough to miss.
Yeah.
And he got with him Joe Schmidt, the sports reporter over on the number 5.
Oh,
right?
don't say reporter.
Whatever he is.
He reads the copy.
The copy reader over number 5.
I have nothing against the guy, but you won't see him analyzing sporting events or anything.
They walk in and they go into the pro shop, and I walk in behind them.
Mhm.
But I've seen them, but they haven't seen me. And Tice makes a comment about me, and Joe Schmidt goes, "Oh, he's such an asshole."
Are you
Like,
serious?
And I go, "I'm right behind both of you."
Are you? Oh,
Oh,
my
yeah.
God, what are the odds?
It's like, Jesus.
And Mike
I
Tice-
run into that all the time. Not as much as I used to, but
Oh, really?
all the time.
I remember Mike Tice. Somebody showed him the data which showed that if it must have been Adrian Peterson. If Adrian Peterson
Adrian.
gains 100 yards, the Vikings almost always win. So he decided that he would just keep giving the ball to Adrian Peterson until he got 100 yards,
Yeah, right.
at which point he would win.
They were going to win automatically.
It just didn't work that way.
It doesn't work that
No.
way.
No.
Yeah, all of that stuff is. I just find that so.
So can you imagine me today? Imagine me today covering the Twins, and like when Craig Cusick was a right-handed batter, and he basically couldn't hit right-handed pitchers, but he was pretty good against left-handed.
Yeah. Yep.
And so he didn't play that much, but he might pinch hit if a left-handed pitcher was in there. And so he attacked things didn't go well for him one game, and he attacked the water cooler with his bat.
Oh God.
And the next day I wrote that the only reason he was able to hit the water cooler was because the water cooler was left-handed.
Oh my God.
Was it a glass water cooler like back in the old days?
No, it's
Oh,
just
it's plastic.
just
Okay.
plastic.
Good.
Pretty
Glad
much,
to hear
yeah.
it.
And but that today, I don't think anybody would want to write that today.
Why not?
Well, because they would get death threats.
It's true.
I'm
It's like
telling
you
you.
can't say anything anymore.
I mean, I did sort of get a death threat from Cusick.
He's a big guy.
He was on the other side of the locker room. I was talking to somebody, and I heard this plaintive voice yelling, "Gelfand, I'm gonna rip your mustache off."
I remember that actually.
Yeah,
I remember that happening.
And I said to Craig, "Hey, if it bothers you that much, I'll shave it."
Yeah, I'll just shave it
Yeah.
off. I'll
But
save you the time.
I thought he would laugh when I said that.
Oh no.
He did not laugh.
No, when athletes hate your guts, they hate you. Like Dan
Yeah.
Gladden, to this day, if I see him, he glares at me.
Oh, he's the kind of guy who probably would attack you.
He probably would.
Yeah.
He was been known to attack people.
Really?
Oh yeah,
he's
he had
very
a hot temper.
Very intense guy. Yeah, he's pretty good at his job.
Yeah, I think he was a good player.
Yeah, he was a good player.
I remember him.
But the guy he hated the most in baseball was Ichiro.
Why?
Well, because Gladden had played baseball in Japan,
Oh, I didn't know that.
and Ichiro was a god in
Yes,
Japan. Still is to this day. And so, for years, Gladden would say something like, "Well, that was a great play on that fly ball. Ichiro couldn't have done that."
Isn't that just amazing when people get that one person? Well, you and I went through that when KQ was the #1 rated show in America. People hated us for that
Yeah. Oh, sure.
because it'll never happen again. This market will never have the highest rated show in
No.
the country. It's never going to happen again.
No, well, one reason is that of course, hedge funds own radio now,
Yes.
and they don't want anybody to be too good
No, they do
because
not.
then the salary prices go up.
Well, basically, isn't that what what's that shithole called that owns KQ now? Cumulus.
Oh yeah.
It's a hedge fund, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
But they probably call themselves venture capitalists.
Venture capitalists. Yes. No, it's so. Well, I told you what happened to them. Now, 17th place. Good choice. Good move. I mean, but it's all about money.
But at least they don't have to pay anyone.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
As long as they don't have to pay anybody, they're getting slaughtered, but they don't have to pay anybody. So what do they care?
Yeah, they don't care. And, when the day comes, they'll file for bankruptcy.
And you and I will pay their bills.
Of course.
That's just.
We are a turn and burn society.
Yeah, we certainly are. Yeah, whatever. It's just one of those deals. Live your life, be happy, Christ. And, it's, look, we had a guest on the morning show this morning. This woman's being accused of killing her husband. And turns out that she says that he used to beat her all the time and all the rest of it.
Right.
But after the interview, I said, I got to be honest with you. I told Catherine 3 days ago, I've never loved her more than I do today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact she hasn't killed me today is even more. So that's good.
That's
I
a plus.
appreciate the fact she's never killed me.
Well, I think that's one reason why I've gone blind in my right eye, because every night I slept with that eye open.
Dried
I
out.
wonder why. Gee, let me think that through.
It's not on the chart though, so I don't know.
Does she still live in the same place?
Yeah. Mhm.
I thought she did, because I don't ever see her at London's and Byerly's anymore. I used to, but I don't see her anymore. So I don't know what that's
She
all
probably
about.
doesn't drive very much.
Yeah, that's a possibility. That's always a possibility in today's world, isn't it?
The interesting thing about the hatred out there is that
You go right from your ex-wife to hatred. Did you know?
Well, I just want to change the subject.
Okay.
I get along with her. She's fine. No,
You do.
no problem.
Yeah, you do. That's good.
And and we're still married.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The fact that I don't
That's
live with
good.
her does not mean we're not married.
I understand. That's
Sorry for
good.
the double negative. But maybe triple in this case.
Maybe triple.
But so it was Pew Research. They do really funky kind of surveys, right?
Okay.
So they did a survey, and basically what the survey showed was that most people said that this country is a shithole,
Okay.
and that the economy has been destroyed. We have no hope for the future. And then they asked them, well, how do you feel about your own personal holdings? And they said, oh, I feel great. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not a problem. I'm doing well. How could
Okay.
people believe both of those things? But they do.
But they
Yeah.
do. I mean, look at the things that people do believe. My God, we were talking about that earlier this morning. How you can believe the things that you believe. And again, that whole situation, we talked about assimilation this morning and all the trouble I got into.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, I was 100% right, but other than
Oh,
that,
I had that group, that hate group that went after me after I wrote the most obsequious column I could write about assimilation and how how it's important for both sides to get to know the other.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. And that got one of the columnists fired, by the way,
It did?
because
Oh
one of the
my
columnists
God.
who I think led the letter campaign,
Oh, okay.
he quoted, he in going after me, he quoted my column, my guest column,
Mm-hmm.
except that he didn't quote it accurately.
Well, you left some parts out.
He quoted inaccurately. His quote was not really what I said, and it was right in his own newspaper.
Is it ever what you said? Never.
Well, you would think in that situation,
Yeah, well,
and so I don't know if actually that he was fired, but I always have suspected it because he wasn't at the paper much longer.
well, seriously, 25, 30 years ago, whenever that was, where I said, assimilate or hit the goddamn road.
Mhm.
I meant we all need to assimilate. We need to move toward one another. I
That's
need
right.
to learn more about you. You need to learn more about
Right.
me.
I know. It's
Assimilation's a good thing.
why is assimilation all of a sudden offensive?
I know it never used to be, and that's kind of what I was saying. Our generation thought that assimilation was a good thing.
Absolutely.
But if it's not a good thing anymore, we need to understand that. We need to talk to people about that.
Yeah.
And
Good
well, that
idea.
was like, and so we know what they all used. Oddly enough, I certainly never used the phrase, and I never suggested anything like it. But all the people who wrote the letters used the phrase forced assimilation.
Forced
Yeah.
assimilation. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what Hitler did. No,
Yeah.
no, I mean, obviously my family came to this country with most of the Jews at the turn of the 19th century.
Right.
And they thought assimilation was a wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying, that's what I was led to believe. And I believed it was true for my family. But if you have a different angle, let's talk about it.
That came up this morning in a way, and I think it was misinterpreted by some people. But there was that young woman that was attacked and killed because they were transsexual,
Mhm.
and a guy picked her up, and the whole thing was just a hideous story, unfortunately,
Yeah.
for the the woman, all the rest of it. But it said in the story that the transsexual woman, was black.
Mhm.
So I asked the question, well, what color was the attacker? Well, what does that matter? Well, why are you bringing up her color?
Yeah.
How does that matter?
Yeah.
And of course, the guy who killed her was black. But these phony, and it's white people that do this, that phony
Sure.
deal is like, oh, well, if they're harmed, well, it's okay to bring up the fact they're black. If they harm someone else, it's not okay to bring it up.
Well, yeah.
You're lying.
Well,
You're doing.
when my dad was working as the reader's representative at the Star Tribune, first the Tribune, then the Star Tribune.
Yeah. And then the Minnesota.
It was kind of funny because people would say, the only reason you got your job was because of your dad.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I was at the paper for 15 years,
Mhm.
and it was a revolving door situation. I quit while he entered. So it was just like with Cumulus,
Yeah.
they entered and I quit the same day.
Good move.
And so there was a controversy there because the newspaper decided that they would never mention the race of anybody, basically.
Oh, not anybody.
So there was like a serial rapist going around, and so they described him, but they didn't mention the fact he was black. Well, it's like people want to know this for their own safety.
Yeah, because I don't know what the guy looks like coming at me.
I couldn't convince my dad that it would have been a good idea to mention his race in that situation.
In some situations, exactly. You don't always have to do it.
Yeah. No, of course not. Usually you don't.
But it's rather important. And if you're going to bring it up on one side, you got to bring it up on all sides.
Yeah.
Do you not?
Well,
Yeah.
if the situation demands it, yeah.
It just makes no sense to me. None of that stuff makes sense to me, but that's just me. All right. Any closing words from either one of you two hunyucks?
Well, if you want some good entertainment, I started watching Wise Guys. Have you seen that?
Wise Guys.
David Chase, Inside the Mind of David Chase.
Oh, God.
The Soprano. Oh my gosh,
The
you watched
Sopranos
the
guy, yeah.
first. It's two-parter. So good. I can't wait to watch the second one. I'm a huge Soprano fan. You know that.
Me too. Yeah.
I have a picture of the Soprano family. I got Tony Christopher. It's a hand-painted thing, and I have it in my office, and
That's
Tony
wonderful.
stares at me every day,
See?
and he gives me that look like, you better get your ass to work now. And that's, I have,
Well, see,
he
there you go.
inspires me every day.
There you go.
Well, I've been binge watching in a sense. Most nights I've been watching it from like 8 to 9 p.m. or 9 to 10. Part of the reason is that my cat likes to take a nap on my foot at 9
Of
p.m.
course.
Uh-huh.
Why would?
So I sit in front of the TV. She likes to do it in front of the TV. So I sit and I go through all the news programs on cable news, and I go through the Twins game, which eventually I don't want to watch. And so I've been watching Gunsmoke lately.
I love Gunsmoke.
I do too.
Great show.
I do. And I remember people saying, "Oh, it's so hateful. They're killing everyone." Well,
It's hateful.
well, because it's Gunsmoke.
I
Because, and
suppose.
let's face it, Matt Dillon did shoot a lot of people in Gunsmoke.
That's true.
And then later on, as the show aged, they didn't do it so much anymore.
Rifleman took over that spot.
That's right, Rifleman. Yeah, and sometimes Rifleman is on after Gunsmoke.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
noticed that myself.
But
I do watch
Gunsmoke
it.
was clever.
It was a great show.
There was
So
a lot of good
Rifleman.
humor there, and Doc Adams, great character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was just a funny character, and so yeah, I love the show. And the sad thing is, I think that I don't know what channel it's on. I know it's 364 where I am, but that's all I know.
Right, yeah, well, there you go.
And but the sad thing is that these like typically they're UHF stations,
Mhm.
which still exist if you have a broadcast television.
Yeah, right.
And but this is on my satellite. But the problem is they tend to buy up like one season at a time. So
Yeah, they do.
now
Yeah,
I've seen
they do.
every season of that particular year. And it kind of saddens me, and I can't really watch it twice in a year.
No,
once
God,
is fine. Once it's clever, twice it's boring.
No,
But
you're
yeah,
absolutely
that's
right.
that's my I guess you'd call it a guilty pleasure. I'm not guilty about it, but
No, I understand. I just watched the entire series of the Soprano series last year. As a matter of fact,
Oh,
I
did
watched it
you?
all over again.
Yeah, I'm actually, now that Dave and I started watching Lilyhammer.
That's a good show.
Oh
yeah.
my God, it's so good.
Mhm.
We like Stevie. Little
Stevie's
Stevie.
great on there. Yeah.
But yeah, he's basically just Silvio in that show.
Yeah, yep.
It's the same character as The Sopranos. But yeah, I don't know. I love that. I don't know. It's just good writing. And I watched we watched The Wise Guys, and just In the Mind of David Chase, and it's hilarious.
you
The
married
stuff.
people, it's such a sad life.
It is.
Sitting
That's all
there
I
in
do.
front of the TV night after night while I'm doing something constructive, namely betting.
Yeah.
You're
Well, there
betting?
you go.
I'm playing the horses.
Oh, gotcha. I don't play horses.
No, very few people do.
All right, that's going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. I got to get Gelfand home. I got to go and see the people at Livia. All I do is shoulder to the wheel.
Well, I really, that 3-minute drive is
It's tough.
very important in my life.
There's no. I'm gonna try that 3-minute drive. I'm driving him home. I'm gonna try to talk Mike into eating his cat.
Yeah, that wouldn't even be an appetizer.
All right, that does it. We'll talk to you tomorrow.